Rastafari greetings to all in one. Yes, Jah, this is D2D again. And today I have a wonderful guest who has written a book about Queen Menen, Haile Selassie's wife. But before we get into the interview, I'm going to introduce the theme as much as I understand it. As women, we continually repeat the same cycle over and over again, which is when someone else defines our sensuality, our energy, and our purpose on earth, we say yes to it. We do not question, we do not explore, we do not challenge, and we certainly never revoke. Haile Selassie, as a Rastafari queen, I was aware pretty early on that Haile Selassie as an individual and a male was not the whole story. But I didn't know where to go because I didn't know about his wife, Empress Menen. As I got a little further into Rastafari and mixed and socialized a little more, what I heard was Haile Selassie brought his wife to his coronation and crowning, and so therefore somehow it transferred in the Rasta community as male-female balance. But I got something else from it. Haile Selassie was a spiritual prophet, like many, all over the world, and it's ongoing. It can't do. Male, female, it can't do. Haile Selassie's spiritual vibration, and may I say wisdom, very, very clear insight. That brother was seeing far. Why do I say that? Because he chose an energy for the balance, for the holding. Empress Menen, to my understand, is not just about a wife. Behind every successful man is a strong woman. No, what for me? No. She did the holding. Haile Selassie knew exactly what he'd come for. He knew the message. He understood the scale of responsibility that was. Because it's a worldwide message. This king is coming to deliver to us. And you know, worldwide messages and prophecies, you know, they live on and they gain momentum as they go on and on, rolling through the generations. He knew that he could not possibly handle that, yes, without some holding. And it had to be the water, the woman, the feminine, that held him. So enable him to go out and deliver that message, yes, yasa, desa, everywhere so, and come back to safety because she was always there energetically wherever he was. Now, I understand that as spiritual healing and guardianship. The mother was in her guardian seat, where we have abandoned as women in general. So wherever she was tuning into him, very clear, very strong, and sending out those energies that he would be protected, that his message would be well received, and that he would be effective. So basically, the work he came to do, the spiritual artistry that he came to give, yes, would be effectively disseminated to the world. So for me, as a Rastafari queen, and as a queen, woman in general, Empress Menen is another unsung hero. And I am overjoyed to have the opportunity to explore what I don't know about her, to explore the world of the sister who wrote the book, and to explore somebody I admire. So without further ado, which are not and the can chat, we'll go into the interview. Rastafari. So, greetings, Queen.
Yeah, to the Most High.
And I'm going to take my, I'm going to read with my glasses my questions, otherwise I can't see them.
There you go.
Okay. Queen Rastafari, we're brought together in this space and time, and we give thanks. Please share with everybody. What's your name?
My name is Anjahli Pernel.
And your main occupation?
I'm basically retired. I'm a writer, I always have been, and a humanitarian. I've done various works through my life.
Okay, but a writer in the main.
Yeah.
Okay.
Massage therapist, another trained, certified, something else I claim.
And the name of your book, Queen?
It's the biography of Empress Menen,
Okay,
the
okay.
mother of the Ethiopian nation.
Rastafari. We are going to get into her, into the main essence of the interview, but first I want to explore your world a little. Now, I certainly understand coming into your beautiful home that if you are nothing, sister, you are extremely spiritual. So please, spirituality, what does it mean to you?
Staying connected, remembering to be connected to the divine at all times, being grateful for what what comes to you, and knowing that the blessings are everywhere. And through every avenue, there's no one path to God. I'm an American Sufi, so that resonates with me highly.
I was just going to go there,
Yeah.
so thank you. Spiritual convictions are American Sufi. Please explain, because I don't know, and maybe people who are watching or not.
The path of the Sufi is a more of an esoteric path, so it's somebody who is willing to go deep, to look at the spiritual world, to take time for retreat, to have a daily practice where, for me, I chant.
Okay.
I chant holy names. It could be in any language. I love the Rastafari Isis, the praises, the Nyabingi chant sessions. That really speaks to my heart.
You have moved on again, sister, to a place I was going to. Please, yes please, the Rastafari blend with the American Sufi. Please explain, sister.
Well, my husband is a Jamaican, Rastafari faithful person. His grandfather was James Dennis. He was, from all the people I've questioned, the first really Rasta in the Blue Mountains. My husband's from the heart of the Blue Mountains up in Sekshan.
Okay.
And so, we trod together, and, through him I really got to the Nyabingi way of looking at spirit, and, I love the natural side of Rastafari, the eating well, eating what you grow from the earth, keeping your mind towards love and unity and accepting of other people. I love that part of it.
And that blends with Sufi, because what you said to me was that with your Sufi convictions you eat meat, but generally Rastafari doesn't. So how do you blend them? Is it a half and half, or?
Well, I think your diet is a very personal thing.
Okay.
Even among the Rastafari, I find a great deal of
diversity,
variation.
yes?
And nobody eats pork. I don't eat pork. I haven't eaten pork for years. I was totally vegetarian for a while. It didn't really work with my body type. So I do eat some chicken. I don't eat red meat unless I see the animals slaughtered, which is more of an African tradition. So that's, eat a lot of fish. We live in a fishing village.
Okay.
I eat mostly vegetables and fruit. That's my way of
Okay, I
life there.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. Now, I gather you are a healer, and I don't know if you're still practicing certain types of healing, but can I ask, what channeling system did you or do you continue to use as a healer if you're still practicing? Massage?
Yes, I do massage therapy. That's what I'm trained in. But you know,
Okay.
my biggest system is to go to my higher self and ask the higher self of the person I'm working with permission.
Absolutely.
And from there, the doors open. And away you go.
Absolutely.
And one, I work with cranial sacral energy as well, and one way you work there is to really, you put somebody almost in a state of suspended animation, suspension, so that they get, they can heal on a profound level. And,
Okay,
and I think that's,
powerful.
yeah,
That sounds very, very powerful.
yeah, that's where, you don't have to do anything, you just get out of the way.
Well, that's usually very effective.
Yeah.
When we met initially, which was about 2 years ago, we touched on healing at a vicinity, just walking and reasoning. And you mentioned subtle spiritual energies, and when we're not attuned, we might miss them. What are they, subtle spiritual energies? Because we're so into, you know, the drama of spirit. You know, we demand of them to show us miracles and stuff, as if our breath is not a miracle enough. So please explain, what are subtle spiritual energies?
Well, to me, a subtle spiritual energy would be, like I said before, getting out of the way, listening to everything that's around you, to be able to be in tune, to attune to what needs, what the person's need is.
Yes.
Because everyone has such a different need. Some people just need to be held in a space of love. Other people need actual physical manipulation into a particular muscle or a particular system of muscles, or you know, some people need to tell stories and they need to cry, and so it depends on where that person is. I mean, on a global level, you know, being in tune with the bigger picture is always a good place to come from an angle to come from. So, you know, being grateful. I think gratitude is a huge subtle energy that a lot of people miss. Yeah. So.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, you and you were involuntary, and I kind of bullied you into a brief divination.
At your house?
At my space, in my space. And where you were directed to heal certain areas in your body, which I didn't remember. It's true, you remind me the other day. Now, you went away and did some of that. Now, please, for people watching this that feel, and some do, as you said, some need to go outside of their physicality and go and see somebody else for assistance. Some people do, yeah? And sometimes we don't, yeah? So please share, how does a one self-heal?
Again, it's a very personal
Diverse.
thing. Yeah,
Yes,
it's very
it is.
diverse. But I mean, I think there's some general things. I think finding time for yourself. A lot of people don't find the time or take the time to actually look at themselves and spend some quality time quieting the mind. I think if you can make your mind quiet, get to that point where your mind is not just so full of issues. And just being in that space of vastness is a big start. It's a big start.
The picnic them are bad. The father is not around, I've been abandoned. Me hungry, them hungry. Yes? There's a whole bag of excitement going on. Yes? Really. Quiet time, quiet in the mind, quiet anything. Yes? The
Well, you know,
haze.
You can do it when all hell is breaking loose.
Okay.
You can
Word sound.
draw yourself in
Word sound.
and just take that moment where you look within.
You make it happen.
Yeah,
You
I
make
mean,
it happen.
when I was in China doing Tai Chi in the park, there's ballroom dance going on over here, there's a martial arts class going on over here, there's people walking around singing, there's people singing. I mean, you just have to go within to find it, because there's always a lot going on everywhere.
Okay. Okay. I would want to further go down the road of challenge and say, when you're hungry, it's a whole different ball game for people
I agree.
making noise. But
I agree.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, that I understand the illustration, which is it really doesn't matter where you are. Yeah, in the space of wherever you are, financially, emotionally, it doesn't matter. You have to make it different. Basically, is what I hear you say.
And I think turning, making that decision to really turn to the spiritual, turn to God.
Make it different.
Prayer, pray. You may have to pray for a long time, but I think prayers are answered.
Always.
They do get answered. So
Always,
yeah.
even if it's not quite.
Well, yeah, and the patience. I have a problem with patience. I especially learned it when I was in Ethiopia. You have to be patient. You know, and it's not, as an American, everything happens right now, or my generation. Just being patient and having the faith to know that things will change.
Trust.
Trust. Yes.
You also spoke about giving praises to Isis. I have no idea as a Rastafarian, which would be shame, but I really have no idea what that is. Giving praises to Isis. Please.
Well, praises is Isis. Isis is the word for praises in Rastafari. And I mean, even when you meet somebody, you don't just say hello. You say Isis. It's like remembering the divine. It's remembering that, okay, I'm a human representation right now, but I'm a manifestation of God, and there is that point of God, and that idea of praising, always remembering to praise God, definitely helps your life.
That makes sense. That makes absolutely energetic sense for me, and I'm sure for other people. Okay, Madam, you are extremely well travelled, and not only well travelled, but worldwide, living.
Yeah.
You've lived in many places, built homes, lived daily lives in many spaces. Why Jamaica?
Oh, why Jamaica? Well, my king man really, he was ready. We lived in Hawaii, which is like Jamaica. It's a paradise. It's a different kind of paradise. We didn't have much crime. It was very much the same sort of plants, very much the same sort of soil. So that was good. But he missed the street life and his family. So he was done with America. So it was either stay in America or come to Jamaica.
Okay.
And I knew that I could come here and try it out. If I didn't like it, I could leave again. So Jamaica's. I wanted to live near the ocean, and so here we are. We're on the north coast. Yeah,
it's nice.
It is nice.
It's nice, Mama there. Okay. What out of everything, this well-travelled, well-read, explorative sister, what inspired you to write about Haile Selassie's wife and not him, which is all we're presented with, as Selassie, as a bit like Bob Marley, like Rita did not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, You know, it's time to bring the feminine forward.
Absolutely.
In this world. It's definitely time to bring the feminine forward. And every time I heard about him and read his words, I was amazed. And that made me wonder, who was he married to? What was his partner like? And I went to the ocean and asked for guidance. We were on our way to Africa. I used to live in South Africa. So we were on our way back to South Africa, and then we were going to go up to Ethiopia. It was my husband's first time to Africa, and we wanted to do this together. And so I prayed for guidance, I prayed for more information. I'd gone to the internet. At that point there was one of our early biographies, it's about 50 pages long, was translated and it's on the internet. You can get to that. But there, it wasn't a lot of information about her or about their life together. So I wanted to know more. And when I was in Ethiopia, my first day in Ethiopia, we went to Trinity Church, and there we met a young man, and he was very interested in the fact that I wanted to know more about Empress Menen. So he went to one of the clerics at the theology school, and this man had hidden a lot of books away, and he found the last biography written about her, which was after she passed. So we had a lot of information about her passing and her funeral, but it was the most complete biography about Empress Menen.
Wow.
Yeah.
See?
Okay.
You move on beautifully to every point that every question I've got next. This is a really, I can't really imagine, but I can only kind of vaguely imagine. How did you collect the material, all the material, to put the book together?
Well,
Epic story.
I took 2 years after it was translated. First, I got permission. I decided I didn't want to tackle this information without getting permission from the family. So I went to the Ethiopian Crown Council, which is Haile Selassie, which is the grandson of the youngest son, Saleh, of Empress Menen and Emperor Haile Selassie, and asked permission, and it was given. That took some time. I went through the lawyers, and then eventually I was able to talk to him directly. And he wanted to see the final manuscript, and I was given the go-ahead after that. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on the internet. I would go to her, Google her name, and then I'd go far, 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 far down the chain and try to find anything. And then I'd find some information, and then I'd go and buy that book and read the book. Of course, I read his autobiography, 1 and 2. That was great insight, but most of it was political. There was a few footnotes about the family, a line here or there. There was maybe a page, out of 2 books, a page about the family. So I really had to go far and wide to get more information. And, I had this background of information. And, I encourage any sister to do any research, and let's, if we can make the book more complete in any area. And then I also did a lot of research about the geography of Ethiopia and the culture of Ethiopia to try to learn more. I'm certainly no expert. I don't speak the language, but the book was written from an Ethiopian point of view. So I added more information about, if it talked about a town, I tried to go look at what was this place about, what was her motivation for going there. And another big thing I did was I took the children and listed when they were born, when they were married, many of them were married twice, and when they passed away. And by doing that kind of connected the dots. I mean, no one realized that she was 6 months pregnant with her 5th child, or I guess it was her last child, Saleh, when she went through the coronation. She was 5 months pregnant, more than 5 months pregnant when she was sitting on the throne. That's why when they did the ceremony, he came out and you know, it was about a 5-hour ceremony for him with the anointment and the presentations and the anointment of oil and the speeches and the prayers. And then she came out. Can you imagine if she had to sit through all of that, you know, being more than 5 months pregnant? So it made more sense. It gave me some context. You know, in a historical perspective to the whole thing. She had such an interesting life. It's an amazingly interesting life. Yeah.
I'm going to get into. You keep leading me.
Yeah,
right.
Right to the next thing.
You're right to the next thing.
Good.
Apart from wow and sensations going through me and the pictures obviously drawing her. Why on this earth, with all the books in circulation, would anyone, in particular us, women, mothers, the mother, I'm not talking about necessarily birth and having children, the mother, the womb, why would the mother, and in general everybody or anybody, want to buy this book? What's unique about it?
It's the first book to really talk about the family, the imperial family in the generation of Empress Menen. A lot of people, when I spoke to Ermias, he was quite happy for people to know who the children were. You know, so few people even knew who her children were, what their names were, when they were born, what their lives were like, you know, up to when she passed in 62. So that was an important feature. This book, more than any other book, brings out him as a father and as a family man. And the accomplishments that they did together, because you know they edited newsletters together. It's said that it's written that she helped him with his speeches, and if you read any of the words or hear any of the words of Haile Selassie, Rastafari, they are amazing. They are beyond.
Of a different level.
They are.
You know that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know.
They're about peace. They're about education. They're about unity, African unity, unity in general, and the fact
different worlds as well.
Right.
Different energetic worlds.
If you look at any footage of him, he was beyond the human manifestation. He operated on a level that was most of us can't even quite comprehend. I mean, we get it.
Far.
I don't. You know, he was someone very special, and he lived at a time, and he understood that Ethiopia needed to come into the modern times. I mean, Menelik before him started the trend. And then Haile Selassie and Menen, she was very modern, she was very friendly. If you look at Zabditu, who followed Menelik, she was on the throne before Haile Selassie. She was very guarded. She didn't believe that outsiders should be coming to Ethiopia. She didn't believe in modernizing things. But Menen was very open and friendly. And she didn't mind working with anyone. She loved people from wherever they were from, as did he. And so that brought a lot of things to Ethiopia. You know, however you feel about a missionary, they started the first clinics and churches and schools. And so there was something to be said for that. And Haile Selassie and Empress Menen encouraged that. They're like, come, please, let's see how we can modernize the country to a point where, you know, people could communicate with outsiders.
So there's basically, we had two people, one masculine, one feminine, even though we know within each there's masculine, but we had two people with this constant flow of inspiration for each other and for their people.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
So it's more than just the coronation in get crowned, she get. It's more than
that.
Yeah. You know, and Rastafari doesn't give that.
It's it's the daily life.
That's what you're sharing.
They were royal people. Okay, so on top of being human, They were from an ancient dynasty, the Solomonic dynasty, and the book does include the story of Sheba and Solomon. It's very important because to a lot of people that's a given. People know that story, but not everybody knows that story. And then if you look at their lunch, let's say, you know, the first thing is each person was announced, and then they took their seat at the table. And if they were not going to be there, their apologies were given. And then, you know, they sat at table together, and then the food was presented to them, came around, and was served to them. And they had lively debate. They had, at first, I'm sure there were family issues that they talked about and checked in with how everybody is and what's going on. And then they had international debate, they had local debate, they talked about the issues of the day. So to be brought up in that kind of an environment is quite incredible. From an isolated African, Ethiopia was isolated from its geography. I mean, there were significant mountain ranges that made Ethiopia hard, not so easy to get to. So from an isolated African nation to be talking about what's going on in the world on every level, it was quite incredible.
Do you, as a woman, I guess you do, so I'll phrase it differently, but it's coming over the inspiration you gained from the research, the experience of being in Ethiopia, yeah, that day-to-day experience while you're exploring and researching and collecting data for your book. You sound extremely inspired by this sister. What
Yes.
in particular, if anything in particular, inspired you by this sister?
Well, it's very interesting, you know, her life story, because her grandfather was Ross Michael, later King Michael, of an area further north from Addis Ababa. She was from the highlands, but not the extreme highlands. So she was from a highland area, you know, a very farming intensive area. She was from Ambassel, and so she had a noble background to start with. Her mother, you know, Michael. Everybody's married several times. Michael had many wives, so you know, her mother was a child of one of these wives, and then she married, you know, Ali Asfa, and went to live with him in this highland area. And her mother was quite an inspiration. She believed in education. You know, Menen was educated from a young age to learn to you know, the Amharic alphabet, how to read, which was, yeah, you know, this means they hired a cleric from the church to teach. And she only had one brother. I have one brother. She had one brother. And the brother passed away when she was, I think, in her 30s. So that brother passed away. And then her mother passed away when she was in her 50s. And at that point, I think she had inherited money before that. But at that point, she had resources.
I always got that sense.
Yeah.
I always had that sense.
Ras Tafari, Haile Selassie, through his father's line, I believe he inherited some land. But I don't think he had a lot of, you know, currency. And she did. So she went about helping people. He built schools, she built schools, of course. She started the Empress Menen school. She went to before the schools were built, there were very few schools. There was one school in Addis Ababa to start with. There were no schools. The school was your monastery. You went, you know, and only the boys went. You know, the boys went off to monastery, learned how to read and write, and that was your upbringing. So she helped the church. She, you know, she would build a church. Instead of having to walk 6 miles or 10 miles to church, they only had to walk 3 miles. And here was this resource for learning the Bible, learning, you know,
Learning.
Learning.
Interacting.
Exactly, right.
Okay.
And then whenever she went anywhere, she would bring alms. She would bring clothes, books. You know, she was all about people furthering themselves. And so was he, obviously.
Ironically, I didn't know any of this, but ironically, that is exactly how I see my levity as a Rasta woman. I really don't see it as just saying Rastafari and Selassie. It really doesn't work for me. I really see that my role is to be out there and make a difference. If nothing else.
Empower the youth. They were all about, not just she, but she, it was all about empowering the youth. I think Menen really understood that if you educate a woman, she has the opportunity to make choices that are going to benefit the family and so benefit everyone.
If you benefit the family, yes, as a woman, there is no question to that enriching on the community, and then once it hits the community, it hits the society, and you are in a good place.
Right.
To finish, hurry up and finish.
Yeah.
I want to, but sister, well-travelled, a questioning sister, a challenging sister, and a sister that is spiritually nomadic, if you want to say.
That's a good word, I like that. Yeah, it's true.
Where to next, Rastafari?
Oh, Lord. Well, living every day in gratitude, I wait to see what the next, this was brought to me in the divine faith and blessings. I wait to see what is next. I don't mind, like my king man said, abandishment. What's the word he used? He said when we come to Jamaica, there's a sense of just living in the moment.
Definitely, yes.
I work with the local, there's some strong Portland ladies, Sister Dawn, Sister P, yourself, Sister Faye. She started the Rastafari school. It's closed down now. It really, kids are now acceptable with locks in school here now. It wasn't so when she started the school. There's some strong, and there's other women out there as well, younger women. So working with the local ladies we do a lot of, we work with the locals, mostly young men in our community for empowerment. We have huge farming projects on the go in the Blue Mountains. We've taken over some land that my husband inherited from his family. We're farming and, we need the hands to do that. There's things going on all the time. I still travel. I hope that more people would read the book and learn from this example.
Yes, of course. Rastafari, because I know I'll be one of them. Sistering. Time closet door.
D2D, yeah.
So what I would like to finish with is I didn't have a conversation with Empress Menen. She had a slight conversation with me, gave me some instructions. I've been badgering you about orange all day.
Oh, all right.
Because I was to tie an orange ribbon around your book and give it back to you. But I only have this.
All right.
And Queen Menen, Empress Menen said that you gave this to her. And with an orange ribbon, healers get in touch. What does orange really mean? And in particular for this sister, with an orange ribbon around it, she gives it back to you with gratitude. Rastafari.
Yeah.
D2D ending. And if I wasn't inspired before, my goodness, get the book, Aluman. Find out about what it is to be empowered in your own power as a woman and married to a world leader. Interesting. Thank Thank you very much, Rastafari.
Blessed, blessed.
Thank you very much. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Goodbye.